Hello and welcome to another edition of Author Aspirations. Today I am excited to have a very special lady with me. Her name is Mrs. Olubunmi Aboderin-Talabi.
How are you? Thank you so much for this opportunity to chat with you.
You wear so many caps, and I kind of thought, where do I start from with this beautiful, gorgeous lady who just hits gold? Am I allowed to say you just hit gold?
Yeah, sure.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
For me, what I love about you is your passion for children's books. How did this start?
By becoming a mother. When I finally became a parent, waited such a long time to become a parent. I finally became a parent. And in the lead up, when we knew we were going to be welcoming a baby into our home, I did a lot of research, a lot of reading. And, I read Dr. Spock's baby book and what to expect and all of that. And one thing that both books mentioned is the importance of reading to your child, even before your child starts to walk, starts to talk. And I, typical overachiever, I really took that to heart. And before my daughter was 10 months, I started reading to her bedtime stories. And we would do like 3 a night. And then I live in Lagos. And so I noticed that the books, many of the books there were books from different countries, from different cultures. And I thought, oh, well, it'd be nice to have some children's picture books that are based in Lagos or based in Nigeria, or that featured more, characters that look, like us. And I went on a search, and in that particular market, I found some, but not many. And so I started writing. And the first one was when we visited a place called the Conservation Center, and I was so fascinated about the place. I was like, oh wow, people have to know about this. And I wrote Tobi Visits the Conservatory based on that, and so on and so forth. So that's where it all started. And it was just, I would say, one of the tipping points, even though people tell me that you can only have one tipping point, but I disagree. One of the tipping points was a book by a very, very, very prolific English language, English-speaking children's picture book author. And she's really popular. I'm sure everybody that has picture books has at least one copy of her book in their arsenal. And one day I read one of her books, and I realized that children's picture books, they have a message and they have a subtext, they have a sub-message. And the sub-message of that particular book was quite damaging for children of color. And I don't know if the lady actually intended it that way, but it could just be something that she believes, and it came across in what she wrote. And I thought that if we continue to read these types of books to our children, they may think that there's something wrong with being Black, or that there's something wrong with them, or that they can't help themselves, or that they have to rely on the assistance of people from different cultures. So it was all of those things, wanting more books for, that featured life in Africa, wanting more characters that looked, like us, but then also being mindful not to introduce messages into, my child's life that could inadvertently have an impact on her self-esteem. So that's where the passion, came from.
Wow. I found that interesting that you had that experience, because I had a very similar experience in Nigeria as well. So maybe from your perspective, it was on the other end of the continent of the world, but mine was very close to home. At a point in time when I had a project, a reading project to work on from UBEC, I was in search of picture books.
Mm-hmm.
I came across very few. But the one book that stands out, that really made me think something has to shift, was an illustration within a picture book in which a child had been naughty, hadn't gone to school. The father got back home. They sat around the dining table. And obviously the father was having words with his son, but wagging his fingers at the mother.
Oh.
And I thought, now this is very, very cultural. I mean, it's almost saying, yeah, he's a bad child and he's your child now, not mine. And so that was one of the things that I saw within our books, made me think something has to shift. So I'm glad that we've had both kind of experiences that have made us step out to do something about it.
Yes. The messages are often quite subtle, aren't they? But they're there.
They are. And so this issue about representation, which is one of the things that we will be talking about, is very important. How important is representation within the books that Clever Clog creates?
It's what we are about. My books like Tobi Bakes a Cake, or Tobi Learns to Swim, or even Kob the Antelope. So they're all set deliberately, in the environment where I live primarily. And the idea is to show children in this environment that, you know what, you also are worthy of having books that depict protagonists that look like you. You are worthy of being featured in good quality children's picture books. Your foods are relevant. So like, for example, in Diary of a Toddler, one of the things that people love the most is the fact that the character is eating eba and egusi, which is something that we eat in Nigeria, right? As opposed to eating burgers and pizzas and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with burgers, there's nothing wrong with pizzas. I love them, we eat them. But the point is that let eba and egusi and amala and gbegiri also have their day, right? Let's represent our foods, let's represent our culture. Why? Just to show the world that we too have foods that we like, and our foods are also, worthy of being tried by people from all over the world, basically. So yes, representation is important. If you're a human being, you matter. Regardless of where you're from, you matter. Your opinion matters. And that's really what the books are all about. The books are written for all children everywhere. And the idea is that, look, you can see yourself, and in the book, you can relate to what you see in the book.
I love what you say about featuring our food, featuring our names, featuring elements of our culture. And I, having lived in the UK for quite a while, I've had some very, very poignant experiences in which children have widened their eyes. Wow, is that what you're about? Is that, and they get to understand that Black people are just like anyone else. We're no different. Yes, we may have different
human beings, yes.
We may do our hair we may have to do our hair up differently, but we all have the same needs, the same wants, the same experiences. And I think, the more children across the world can see books written by Black authors, books written for everyone, not just for Black children, the better. And I think Clever Clogs is doing a fantastic job. And, the more we see your books here in the UK, the better. Clever Clogs, the better. Last year, you came out with the title, Why Do We Wash Our Hands?
Yes, it came out in October of 2019. That was when we did the launch. It was prior to the outbreak of the coronavirus. We hadn't heard of the coronavirus, I don't know if anybody outside of, the area where it broke out had heard of coronavirus. Maybe some people had, but as at October 2019, my focus was just, there's so many diseases that can be avoided just by keeping your hands clean, by regularly washing your hands. Again, that was spurred by things I witnessed many, years prior to that. And some people that have done events with me remember an event that I did probably as far back as 2012.
Okay.
And for some reason, I took it upon myself to create these t-shirts that had written on the back, wash your hands. It's always been a passion with me to get this message across that, look, just please wash your hands. When you finish using the toilet, wash your hands. Before you eat, wash your hands. Before you touch your eyes, wash your hands. So hand washing has just been something I've been passionate about, that I've advocated, and I found a way of presenting it to children. And the only reason why that book didn't come out in 2017 was because, my husband gave me the idea to translate the books into different indigenous languages. So working on the translations took a bit longer. So finally, October 2019, we were ready, and we had a really beautiful book launch for Why Do You Wash Your Hands? We held it at, I think it was at Tots Toys in Victoria Island in Lagos. And then within months, there was an outbreak, started in one part of the world and it traveled across the world. And by February, it was declared to be, in Lagos. And people thought that I wrote the book in response to the disease. But I was like, no, I had never heard of coronavirus until everybody else heard about it.
So you were a prophet of literature then.
Somebody used that word, and I was like, well, I don't know. It was just something that was on my mind to write, and I wrote about it. And the book got a really good reception. It was a book of firsts. I think it was the first, Nigerian children's picture book to come out simultaneously in 4 languages. It was the first to have stickers in 4 languages, and a couple of other firsts as well. So just delighted with the book, delighted with the fact that I think the first run it sold out more or less. And then we created the languages separately. What we did was, with the original version, we did all 4 languages in one volume. And then after those sold out, we now reprinted in separate languages. And even though the indigenous languages, they lead in the indigenous language versions, we've put the English translation there as well. So the books not only serve as children's picture books, they not only serve as instructional guides on when to wash your hands, before this occasion or after this occasion, they also serve as a method of teaching the language, learning the language, understanding a little bit about the language and culture. Which
also has to do with representation, doesn't it? Showing that we have other languages apart from English, because some children, just don't know. They can't understand that a lot of us grow up in bilingual or even multilingual families. So I think congratulations on that. I think I can imagine the kind of success the book would have had, especially coming out spot on time for the reception. That's amazing. So congratulations. I'm sure the book has done fantastically well in its
first year. Well, I like to think so. Others may beg to differ, but I like to think so.
Oh, fantastic. I'm going to ask you another question, moving swift, because we could go on and on and on about Clever Cloaks. You've got so many beautiful books, and I remember when we first caught up, my big question was Amazon. So I'm so glad that we're all experiencing your books at the moment. The other cap that you wear that I'd love to ask about is this one about the Akada Children's Book Festival. I knew you'd dance to that. And I love that theme song. Not I think the previous year's one, the Akada Children's Book Festival.
Yes.
Oh, I love and the dance sessions and everything that happened within that week. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
It was a lot of fun, and that's the point, to try to get across to children that you can read anytime, anywhere, and reading does not have to be purely academic. Reading can be for relaxation. Reading can be for, yes, learning, for passing the time. It can be a useful alternative to staring at a screen. And, if you're sick and tired of looking at screens, especially in the season that we've come through. So the idea is to make books accessible, make books relevant, and make it fun, develop this concept of reading for fun. During the first Akada, which was in 2019, April of 2019, in Lagos, Nigeria, we had a physical event because, again, it was prior to COVID. We had not heard of COVID. We had no idea that such a thing was on the horizon. And it was held at the beautiful premises of the British Council, and we had a pop-up library. And that was the most popular part of the festival. It was full from the time we opened to the time we closed. The kids loved it. They loved having a place where they could just go pick up a book, flop on a beanbag and just read. And then when they're done, they could get another one and get another one and get another one. So thank you very much to Reading Corner for running that library for the day. It was fantastic. And the following year, because of COVID, there were no large gatherings, so we migrated online. And it was well received. But obviously we couldn't have the library, but we introduced other little things to keep it, lively and popping. And we did it again this year, third edition in 2021. And I'm really, really glad at the reception, really, really glad at all the reviews. Love hearing from children about how they discovered new books. Love hearing from parents about how they found all the various workshops useful and so on and so forth. So it's an honor, it's a privilege, but most of all, it's a joy. I really enjoyed putting the festival together, and you were part of it this year too.
I completely enjoyed it. I think one of the, I can't even say which I enjoyed better, the work up towards it or the actual day. I mean, I think just even the work up towards it, it's coming, and talking to friends, getting children signed up, getting the t-shirts, getting to meet other authors that were taking part. I think everything about it really was just,
it was fun.
It felt like it felt global. It felt like we were all in this together, and I loved it. What I'm sure you did. What next? Whoever didn't take part, I'm sure they're wondering, okay, we better find out about this for next year.
Yes,
so next? What next for Akada Children's Book Festival? What do you see?
It's
coming.
What can I say? It's to keep on giving authors a platform, particularly self-published authors, to keep on giving self-published authors a platform to showcase their work to the world. It's to keep on giving parents a platform where they can come to find out about how to encourage their children to read, how to develop a love of reading in their children. It's to give children an opportunity to discover new books, to ask authors questions, to find out from an author what it's like to be an author, to ask their favorite authors questions about various characters in the book, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to continue just one year at a time. Let's just do it again. Let's just keep going and develop this sense of continuity, this sense of community, this sense of just the love of reading amongst children, not just children of color, but really it's open for all children.
Yes, it is, across the world. And that's the beauty about it. The one thing that comes to mind, though, is about access. So not all children have access to the internet.
Yes.
But I do know that there are pockets of reading communities here and there across the country. Were they able to take part in the festival within their own pockets of community? You know, was that how it played for those who have no access to the internet?
So bear in mind that Akada Children's Book Festival was not supposed to be an online event. It's supposed to be a physical event, but it was COVID, lockdown, pandemic that forced us online. So we sincerely look forward to when life will go back to normal. There is such a thing. And when we can go back to meeting in person. Now, Akada is just once a year at the moment. There are some literacy champions, may I even say, who week after week, they run these book reading clubs for kids in communities across Lagos. I can think of 4, not just across Lagos, in different parts of the country. I can think of one in Port Harcourt, one in Lagos, at least one in Lagos, in Oyo State, in Abuja. Actually, I can think of one in Kaduna too. So there are these champions who have taken it upon themselves to create these reading hubs. And the one in Lagos has been particularly successful. You know, she started off with one, and now I think on Saturday mornings in at least maybe 4 or 5 communities across Lagos, you have children that just come together to read. It's not school. It's just, coming together for an hour or 2. Just reading, sharing reading, talking about books and things like that. And the pandemic hasn't slowed it down at all. I mean, during pandemic, they met online, but with things easing off, the book clubs are getting back together and meeting again. So access is it's a valid, question about access, but Akada, so far, we've been able to make it free to attend. And the only way we can continue with that is to have sponsors. So this is a pitch. If you want to sponsor a reading event in Nigeria, please sponsor the Akada Children's Book Festival, because it's been free so far. We want to keep it free. Why? Because we want to make sure that it's accessible to as many children, to as many people as possible.
I was going to say, can we give those providers a shout out? Because you mentioned about 4. Let's give them a shout out. Okay, go for it.
So Farida at Bookworm Cafe, very well done.
Woo-hoo.
All the work that you're doing. Farida started, I think, with one branch in Ilupeju in Lagos, and she now has different reading clubs across Lagos. Readland Nigeria, that's Francis and Temiloluwa additional. Well done. Again, I think they had one community in somewhere. I'm not sure whether it was in Ajegule or somewhere like that. And if my understanding is correct, there are now Readland clubs in different places. And if I'm not incorrect, I believe they're also outside of Nigeria. They've got Readland communities outside Nigeria now as well, in other parts of Africa. There's Page Flippers Club in Kaduna, well done. There's Tabitha's Kids in Abuja, very well done. Wow. INT Corner is a children's toy shop, but they have great books. Okay. And from time to time she has authors, come and read those books. So they're different people who have the same idea, the same spirit, that same sense of championship of literacy, and they're doing what they can in their community. And I'm also going to mention the Condes, Adedapo Conde and his wife. They run, that's it, it's called the P Foundation, I believe.
Okay.
If I got the name wrong. But they run a foundation that basically sets up libraries in different communities. Sometimes they're invited to come and help a school set up a library. Sometimes they just see a community that does not have a library, and they do what they can just to set up, a library. And the libraries are so valuable and they're so useful, because for some people, they don't have a conducive environment in their home that would allow them to do their homework. So if they have these little libraries, they go there to do their homework, to do some research and so on and so forth. So the libraries are really actually more critical and more vital in communities like ours than maybe in more developed communities where perhaps, people have better access to books or more conducive, environments in their homes.
Wow. Thank you to everyone that's providing a reading culture service to our communities. I think I can remember a couple as well. Is it Kids Literacy Circle?
How could I forget Adeshola? Forgive me. Kids Literacy Circle. Adeshola Ali. She does a fantastic job. She brings books to life, like literally. So I think she did, which one of my books? I'm sure she's probably done Diary of a Toddler.
Okay.
And she's definitely done this one. Okay, for example, she literally brings the book to life. So she looks at the book. What's the book about? Okay, it's visit to a conservation center. So what do we need? And then she gets different props, and she gets the children to either dress up in a particular way, or they talk around, they get up, they walk around the props and whatever. So the books actually come to life, making the books more interesting. And what I love to see when I visit, when she invites me over to come and do a book reading or something like that, I love seeing the parents that are engaged enough and interested enough to bring their children to these reading clubs. I'm like, wow, kudos dads, kudos moms, well done. For doing this. And Adeshola, she dresses up and comes from the book and everything. So yes, Kids Literacy Circle.
Yes. Fakia TV.
Sorry?
Fakia TV.
I'm not sure. I've not heard of that.
I've heard of her. She does an amazing job online as well. What about the Bookworm Cafe? Do they have a children's?
That's the one I mentioned first. Bookworm Cafe.
I missed that. So, okay, that's her outfit. Amazing. Because without these people, it's one thing for parents to buy books. It's another thing for the children to experience the books.
Yeah.
So I think these people, they do a wonderful job in improving the reading culture in Nigeria. Thank you for sharing that information with us. Now let's go to the big chair role of being the chairperson of the Association of Children's Authors and Illustrators Association of Nigeria. Tell us about that journey, and just share that with us. So that might be, apart from anything else, that might be the last major thing we'll chat about today.
So ACAIN is the Association of Children's Authors and Illustrators of Nigeria, and it was formed by myself and 6 other children's authors and illustrators. We wanted to have a body that encouraged children's authors to come together, share ideas, improve their skills, learn how to run their businesses. Why? Because the majority of us are self-employed or self-published. And it's good to see that there was an interest. And in the last 2-3 years, the children's book industry in Nigeria has, dare I say, taken off. And it's come to the fore, let me say. It's become more of a conversation piece. People are more aware of the fact that we need to develop this industry of writing for children. We have a lot of fascinating and brilliant authors who majority of whom write for adults. And what we've been able to do is shine the light on the fact that, hello, children are here. Hello, children also need good quality books, and it's not just textbooks, books that they can read for fun. Books that seem to be about what, what's the moral? It's like, it's just about something that happens, a day in the life of a child. Yes, children are interested, and yes, it's worth having a book, a picture book, about, going to visit grandma in the village or something like that. Yes, it is interesting. So that's what we've been able to do, develop awareness that, look, you're an author, you don't only have to write for adults, you can also write for children. Develop awareness that, yes, parents, there are things you can do to encourage your children to read. Develop awareness to say, look, there is such a thing as age-appropriate books. The books that you're giving to your child may not quite be appropriate for their age, and maybe that's why you've been struggling getting them to enjoy reading, and so on and so forth. And then advocating for bedtime stories. Bedtime stories, when we first started, it was like, oh, bedtime stories is not a Nigerian thing. It's like, well, it should be. All children deserve bedtime stories. If possible, if they're interested, if the parents have. Yes, we know everybody's busy. You have to work, struggle through traffic to get back home. But if you can spare that 5-10 minutes, you'd be amazed at what you can find out. Because your little 2-year-old, your little 3-year-old, maybe a little bit shy or reluctant to tell you about something that happened that day. But if you have that moment where you get quiet with your child and you talk about a subject and you give them a chance to ask questions, you may discover something that's actually quite vital. So do not ignore bedtime stories. So ACAIN embodies all of these things. It's about making sure that they're good quality books for children. It's making sure that children's authors have a community, a place where they can get together, ask questions, get to meet other children's authors, and also some advice for those who self-publish and run their own businesses.
Well, we know that ACAIN is still a baby. It's not quite one yet. It's not one at all, is it? It was launched on the 1st of May.
So ACAIN, we've actually been in discussion and talks since last year. I don't want to get it wrong. It may have been even since the year before. I mentioned it for the first time to, I think it was Tonye, another... I mentioned it to Tonye for Lydia Kezie after we met at Akada. So we met at Akada Children's Book Festival in 2019. And at the festival, when I saw the response, the hunger and the desire, for children's books and for an opportunity, a place for books to be sold and for people to let people know about their work, I mentioned that, we should have an association. But, time and chance, nothing happened. And then it was now February of 2020. And that was when I met another one of the trustees, Lola Shonei. And she mentioned it as well. And I'm like, yes, Tony and I had this conversation. And then from there, we got together, pulled together some other authors, Chioma Moma and who am I missing? Basirat. Razak Schweib, and then we also then added some illustrators, Irene Omionu and ABK, Abdul Karim, Babaminu, and the 7 of us started the association. And so we finally got everything, sorted out formally, I think towards the end of 2020. And then it took us a while to get ready to introduce it to the public. We had to sort things out. And then we finally launched it publicly May of 2021. Yeah. So that's a little bit of the history of the Association of Children's Authors and Illustrators of Nigeria. Yes, we're in our infancy stage, but the idea is just, let's have a community. Let's have a space for children's authors and a place where illustrators can be developed, cultivated, and connected to authors, because you can't really have a children's picture book without illustration. So
true, very true, very true, very true. Wow. I think one of the highlights for me, and I have to say this, I do feel honored that you chose me, selected me to be the first person to to do ACAIN's very first inaugural workshop on how to.
Your book was one of the first books that I read to my daughter, A Fun ABC, and we love that book. We love that book. It's still in our library. We love it because of the hidden objects. So on the A page in A Fun ABC, Sade and Shadrach Ayalome, the illustrator, they hid objects that start with the letter A. So we used to have fun hunting all the letters, all the objects that started with A. Then on the B page, we'd look for all the objects that start with the letter B and C and so on and so forth. So great book. So I was quite delighted when the committee nominated you, they mentioned you, and everybody unanimously said, yes, we would like.
Oh,
Sade,
I feel honored. I feel so honored. I tell you what, when I became an author, obviously my author journey started when I was living in Nigeria. We'd come out to live in Nigeria, to live in Abuja specifically. And I didn't know anyone in Abuja. We just went out there, exploring, experimenting with life. And I found myself in a position where I became a reading consultant for UBEC. And I had to, the job really was to create reading corners. I did some field research, and I came, I showed them, I gave the results, and I told them, how appalling the situation was. And, I felt confident that we could change something. We could change the narrative here. So I was given a pot of money to put books into schools, and, not finding anything. I thought something has to shift here. The books that I came across, and a lot of them are mentioned in this book. I don't know if you've ever come across this book. It's called Nigerian Children's Literature in English. I'm not sure if it's still in print, but it's a very good capture. It's written by P.O. Fayose, and it's a very good capture of the situation of children's books in Nigeria. And it only does analysis from primary 5, which are the type of books that, if you didn't attend a private school, you would only have come across black and white books, probably chapter books from primary 1. And it does talk, as far back as, so this was printed in, let me just have a look, copyright page, in 1995. Although the information is way back, and 1995, yes, to be specific. Look at how archaic the copyright page is. I don't know if you can see it in a different format as well. But it's got a lot of information about the history of children's books in Nigeria, and a lot of the people that you're showcasing on the ACAIN LinkedIn, and a lot of them are captured in here.
I need to get a copy of that book.
It's a really good one. It's a really good one. I think I got for my father-in-law in Ibadan. And so this really in understanding the situation. So when I started working with children, not in the cosmopolitan area, but in places, the suburbs, Kwali, Gwagwalada, Kuje, I saw children going to school with no shoes. Yet the books that I was putting in were Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Three Billy Goats Gruff, and I thought this is not right. That is why my first attempt at writing was for the unheard voices, those children who I know need to see themselves in books. So it's funny that when my book got to the USA, people actually thought and still think that I live, in one of those remote places, which is fine. And then they get surprised to know that I live in the UK. But when I tell my story about why, and this is why representation is big for me, then they get to understand that, yes, that is part of my story. I loved going to visit my grandfather, because when I was born, we lived in a very rural part of the UK. So connecting with the forest and with the woods and with trees was all part of my life. So every time we went to my grandfather's, that is where I wanted to be. I just wanted to be out in the woods, playing in the vines, just that was where, that was safe. That was a safe place for me. So that's my story. And that is why, for me, representation is important. And the fact that every child needs to be seen, every child needs to be heard, every child needs to know that they are special. So we have a connection with our dreams and our goals. And I think this is why we connect so well, and so, so many different levels. But you've got all these big caps, and sometimes okay then. But I love what you do. I love your passion. I love that the HRM came on the HRH came on your program, Sarah.
That was a privilege and an honor. That was an honor.
Global recognition.
A pleasant surprise. I heard it was coming out, but I didn't dare believe it or think on it until I actually saw it.
So tell us, did you get to speak to her? Did you have to work through her agent?
We've never met. How did it all happen?
That was a lovely feature.
It was just a lovely surprise is what I would say. I mean, it was such an honor and such a privilege. I think someone from her team,
okay.
Somebody must have said, yes, someone sent a copy of my book or something like that to a member of her team, and then it moved on from there, and then they got copies of more of the books, and then they picked one, and then they picked a second one to read. So she's actually read two of my books. She's read I think she's read Why Do You Wash Your Hands was one of them.
Okay.
Tobi Learns to Swim was the first one.
Yes,
that's Sarah Ferguson. Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
On her show, she has a children's picture book show. She reads. It's called Storytime with Fergie and Friends. Yeah, I'm giving her a plug. Storytime with Fergie and Friends. It's on YouTube.